Good evening. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. In our lead story, we're taking you to the City Ground in Nottingham, England, for a deep dive analysis of a commanding European performance. Nottingham Forest secured a resounding 4-0 victory over Hungarian side Ferencváros last night, January 29, 2026. But this was more than just a win. It was a statement that sets up a dramatic Europa League playoff and comes at a time when the geopolitical landscape of European football is shifting. I'm your host, and tonight we'll break down the match, the tactics, and the wider implications for clubs from emerging football nations. We'll also examine a stark contrast. While Forest celebrates on the pitch, a grim reality unfolds off it, as the ripple effects of global conflict reach the world of sport. Let's begin with the match itself. The final scoreline tells one story, Nottingham Forest 4, Ferencváros 0, but the narrative is built on key moments and statistics. Forest dominated possession from the outset, controlling an impressive 68% of the ball. Their pressure was relentless, leading to an early breakthrough in just the 12th minute. Hungarian defender Bence Otvos, under duress from Forest's high press, turned the ball into his own net. The own goal set the tone for the evening. From that moment, Forest never looked back. They registered a total of 18 shots, with 7 of those on target, compared to Ferencváros' meager 5 attempts, only one of which troubled the goalkeeper. The XG, or expected goals, metric further illustrates Forest's dominance. They finished the match with an XG of 3.2, meaning the quality of their chances suggested they should have scored about 3 goals. They exceeded that. Ferencváros, by contrast, managed a paltry XG of just 0.4. The numbers paint a picture of complete control. The man who capitalized on that control was Brazilian forward Igor Jesus. He scored a clinical brace, finding the net in the 34th and 58th minutes. His movement and finishing were exemplary, taking his personal tally for the European campaign to 6 goals. The rout was completed from the penalty spot in the 82nd minute by midfielder James McAdie, after a foul on substitute winger Anthony Elanga. It was a comprehensive, professional performance from Sean Dyche's side. But what does this result mean in the broader context of their European journey? This victory was the final match of the Europa League's new league phase. Last week's defeat away to Braga in Portugal had already mathematically ended Forest's slim hopes of securing automatic qualification for the knockout rounds. Therefore, this win was about momentum and securing the most favorable playoff draw possible. By finishing their group campaign with this emphatic result, Forest ensured they will face either Greek giants Panathinaikos or Turkish powerhouse Fenerbahce in a 2-legged playoff next month. That tie will be a monumental challenge, but last night's performance sends a message. Forest, under Dyche's pragmatic yet effective leadership, are a tough out for anyone. Now, let's shift our perspective and consider the view from Budapest. For Ferencváros, managed by former Tottenham and Liverpool striker Robbie Keane, this was a night to forget. They were outplayed in every department. Their pass completion rate in the opponent's half was a dismal 62%. They committed 14 fouls, a sign of their frustration and inability to cope with Forest's physicality. This loss concludes a disappointing European campaign for the Hungarian champions, who will now turn their focus solely to domestic matters. The gulf in resources between the Premier League and the Hungarian NBI is vast, and nights like this brutally expose it. However, this match also serves as a microcosm of a larger debate within European football, the ever-widening financial gap. Forest's squad, assembled with Premier League television money, is valued at approximately 450 million euros. Ferencváros' entire squad is valued at around 75 million euros. That's a 6-to-1 disparity. When such a financial chasm exists, can we ever expect a truly competitive balance in these cross-border competitions? Proponents of the current system argue that financial might is earned through sporting success and commercial appeal. They point to Forest's historic legacy, their passionate fan base in a city of over 300,000 people, and the global allure of the Premier League as justifications for their wealth. Critics, however, see a closed shop forming. They argue that the constant influx of cash for English clubs creates an unsustainable model that stifles competition and makes it nearly impossible for champions from smaller leagues, like Ferencváros, to build and retain squads capable of challenging. This leads us to a crucial and more somber parallel story emerging from the world of football. While Forest and Ferencváros battled on the pitch in Nottingham, a very different struggle was playing out thousands of miles away, one that highlights how global politics can violently intersect with sport. Reports emerged on the same day, January 29th, detailing how Africa continues to suffer from the fallout of Russia's war against Ukraine. The conflict has created a humanitarian crisis with global ramifications, and the world of football is not immune. There are documented cases of African migrants and students who were in Ukraine when the war began, now finding themselves trapped in a horrific situation. Some reports suggest they face discrimination in evacuation efforts, while others allege more sinister fates. This is where the story takes a dark turn relevant to our sports discussion. Ugandan military chief, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, recently made headlines by declaring his support for Russia and making inflammatory claims about Ukrainians targeting Africans. Amidst this geopolitical posturing, humanitarian organizations report that several Ugandans caught in the conflict zone are desperately trying to escape forced conscription by Russian-backed forces. They fear being used as cannon fodder on the front lines. This creates a disturbing dichotomy. On one hand, you have the glamour of European football, where African players like Forest's Nigerian defender Ola Aina are celebrated heroes, representing their clubs and countries on the biggest stages. Their talent is a source of immense pride and a driver of economic opportunity. On the other hand, you have African citizens with no connection to the conflict being potentially exploited as pawns in a war they didn't start. The contrast couldn't be starker: the agency and celebration of African athletes in Europe versus the vulnerability and fear of African civilians caught in a European war. This raises profound ethical questions for the football community. Should governing bodies like UEFA or FIFA take a stronger stance on global conflicts that impact the lives of players, fans, and their families? Can sport truly be an apolitical escape when politics invades the pitch through the lived experiences of those who play on it? Some argue that football must remain neutral, a unifying force above the fray. Others contend that silence in the face of such adversity is a political choice in itself. This tension is not new, but it is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore as the world grows more interconnected. Returning to the pitch at the City Ground, let's analyze Sean Dyche's tactical masterclass. Forest lined up in a compact 4-4-1-1 formation, a hallmark of Dyche's philosophy. They conceded space out wide but were impenetrable through the middle. Their defensive discipline was outstanding. They made 23 successful tackles and intercepted 15 passes. The midfield duo of Aurel Mangala and Ryan Yates provided a formidable shield, winning 65% of their combined duels. This defensive solidity allowed the full-backs, Nico Williams and Harry Toffolo, to push forward selectively, providing width without being caught out. The first goal, the own goal, was a direct product of this high-pressing system. Forest's forwards and midfielders closed down Ferencváros's defenders aggressively in their own third, forcing the error. It was a goal manufactured by intensity, not intricate passing. For the second and third goals, the approach shifted slightly. With Ferencváros chasing the game, Forest exploited the spaces left behind. Igor Jesus's first goal came from a swift counterattack following a Ferencváros corner. His second was a poacher's finish from a recycled cross after sustained pressure. The penalty was the result of fresh legs, as substitute Anthony Elanga used his pace to drive into the box and draw the foul. Dyche's game management was perfect: secure the game early, then pick the opponent off as they overcommitted. For Robbie Keane and Ferencváros, the tactical plan clearly failed. They attempted to play out from the back but were consistently harassed by Forest's front line. Their key creative player, Serbian midfielder Aleksandar Pešić, was marked out of the game, managing only 32 touches before being substituted. Keane's switch to a more direct 4-2-3-1 in the second half left them even more exposed at the back. It was a harsh lesson in the levels required at this stage of European competition. Looking ahead, Forest's playoff tie against either Panathinaikos or Fenerbahce will be a different beast. Both are historic clubs with ferocious home support and extensive European experience. Panathinaikos, the Greek champions, are known for their organized defense and tactical discipline under manager Fatih Terim. They have conceded only 4 goals in their last 10 home matches in Europe. Fenerbahce, on the other hand, boast an array of attacking talent, including veteran striker Edin Dzeko. They average 2.3 goals per game in their domestic league this season. Forest will likely need to replicate the defensive resilience they showed against Ferencváros, but also find another gear in attack to break down these more seasoned European opponents. The financial stakes are enormous. Qualification for the Europa League round of 16 is worth an additional €5 million in UEFA prize money, not to mention the commercial and matchday revenue from an extra high-profile European night at the City Ground. For a club like Forest, operating within the Premier League's strict profit and sustainability rules, every euro counts. This playoff, therefore, is about more than prestige. It's a crucial financial fixture. In conclusion, Nottingham Forest's 4-0 victory over Faring Pharaohs was a display of Premier League power and tactical coherence. It sets up a fascinating and lucrative playoff next month. Yet, this match exists within a world far larger than the 90 minutes on the clock. It highlights the economic inequalities shaping modern football, and when viewed alongside the day's other news, forces us to confront the uncomfortable ways in which global strife shadows the beautiful game. The celebration in Nottingham is real and deserved, but it is not the whole story. The beautiful game, it seems, cannot always escape the ugliness of the world around it. For the players, the fans, and the citizens caught in between, the interplay between sport and society has never been more complex or more consequential. This has been your deep dive analysis. Subscribe to Kenya News Update today.